Hello and welcome to Bhagavad Gita study. Today we are going to start the series called Beginner Series, which was inspired by Sunil Jadhav, one of my respected subscribers, who asked me to talk about struggles that a beginner would have, what to read, what not to read, how to build up a consistent practice, and all that. So even before I began about beginner struggles, I want to touch upon a certain solid things that one can have, or one should have, to begin the practice of reading any scripture for that matter, but Bhagavad Gita here for our purposes. So I won't say unless you have these, your practice is not going to go well. No, these are good to have, is what I'm saying. So if you have some of these things, your practice will go longer, and you'll get a lot more than the average person who's reading the scripture. That's what I'm getting at. But before we proceed, let's read today's verse. I will do 645. प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्धकिल्बिषः अनेकजन्मसंसिद्धस्ततो याति परां गतिम्. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. And there's also one more, but I thought I'll just stick to one today. So this is chapter 6, 45th verse. Now let's begin with our thing. Now, as a beginner, there are certain things that you need to have a kind of reality check you need to do before you handle something like Bhagavad Gita. Let's look at the first one, which is the reason for scripture study. Different people come to the scripture for different reasons, right? But for Gita, you need to completely be honest and give a good look at the reason why you want to pick up a copy. In my case, the reason was, as I was, reaching the adolescent age, I was not a child anymore. I'm not an adult yet. You start to ask these questions. Why is my life different from another with the same age, with the same family background, with everything? Why is my life different? Why is there pain in life? Why is the world so different if God is the creator? Why everybody has different kind of life, and why is there all this diversity, right? Different things. One same 16-year-old has a different life than another. So this is what started all the questions for me, is what is the source of pain? Why are there so many discrepancies in the adult world? Just like as a child you're asked not to lie, but an adult may ask you to pick up the phone and say they're not there. Why is this adult lying if the adult is teaching you not to lie? These are the questions that shock a child as to why adult world is so different. As and when we grow, where is all that innocence going off? And then because we are so desensitized to that kind of shock and pain, we just become numb to it. We don't ask those questions any further. In my case, I was shocked to know that things are so different from how you're taught, and each person is different, and there is so much pain that one person inflicts on another. There's always oppression. Somebody is strong in any relationship or any situation. Someone is strong, the other one is weak. The strong always wants to exploit the weak. And why is all this happening was my question, and that's where my seeking started. So when my seeking started, I have to be, every opportunity that I get, I do make use of the opportunity to show you this. I'll always keep showing you this. This is where I went with my seeking first. It was a painful time, for many. We have pass through this kind of timing where we feel we are lost and we are trying to make sense of what this world is and why things are different. And then this is where I went, and this did not disappoint me. This book is Sri Ramakrishna himself living in here. I can only say that much, that he holds your hand. Prabhu does hold your hand and bring you to God. There's nothing else Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa does. There's nothing else he does. He will hold our hand and bring us to God. Bring us to God. You can go 10,000 places as a teenager or as a young person, or even as an old person. You may be, numbing your pain by watching serials and whatnot. But, if you start here, you'll go to the right place. So that's where I started. And slowly, I started to get very serious about spiritual questions and, landed up in Bhagavad Gita study. Just like Arjuna's Vishada Yoga, which was full of pain. Arjuna's dilemma and the whole thing was so painful. His rant, the first chapter is full of his own rants. He thinks he knows it all. He starts to reason stuff. And, he gives himself a lot of pain before surrendering. So that's exactly what happened in my case too, that I was thinking that the answers may be found by me until I surrendered to Prabhu, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, thinking that, okay, this is what I have, all these problems, you have to guide me now. And I prayed Holy Mother and Swami Vivekananda, and they did bring me to the right place. If you are somebody that does not have a strong pain as a background for a reason to study scripture, then that's fine. If you are someone that already grew up in a home where Bhagavad Gita is already read and chanted, that is okay. You may not have a strong inclination, but it's there, so you read it, that's fine too. But the reason why you are reading this needs to be clear to you. You should start at an honest place. It does not have to be very lofty. You don't have to say, you know what, I want to fix the world, I want to advise others, or I want to do more. I want to have moksha. I don't want to come into the birth and death. That should be the reason to read Gita. No, it does not have to be. Number 2 thing that I want to talk to you about is, when it comes to reason, you will see that in the world, when you go with your problems and pains to others, usually it's with good intention, that they will say that, hey, you know what, if, for example, I'm just giving you an example, it could be anything. If you are mad at your boss, you're not getting a promotion that you actually deserve, you work very hard, right? And then you're very, very disappointed. It's true, it is hurting you, and your heart is full of pain. You go to somebody and say, I'm so disappointed. This friend of yours says, no, he has a good intention. He wants you to look at the pain in the right way. And so he says, hey, listen, there are so many people without jobs. I think you should feel grateful. At least you have a job. You didn't get the promotion. You can always get the promotion next year. It feels good at that time, right? You feel that, yeah, he's right. Maybe there are so many people that are below us that we have to think about and feel grateful where we are. The problem with this kind of a thing is that the question is actually answered, but only partially answered, and you are putting a band-aid on top of your pain, and the pain is still festering inside. It is getting infected more and more, and it's not going to go away until you ask the real question. No, listen, it is painful for me. It is painful. Why am I different than the other guy who works lesser and still getting promotions? Why are things painful for me versus somebody else? What is the reason? What is the structure? What has God got to say about this? If you ask questions in this type and you go to other friends and other people in your circle, you will get band-aids for your wounds, but they're not going to be gone. Going to scriptures, going to spirituality may have a better chances to answer your question for your pain. So if you feel pain, and if somebody says you are a fool to feel pain because there are other bigger pains than yours, it is true, but you don't have to take that to heart and say, hey, he's right, I'm bad, I shouldn't be feeling the pain. Pain is real. Pain is an indicator for you to turn towards God. Pain is an indicator telling you that something is out of order, because bliss alone is your natural existence. If you're feeling pain, then you're out of your nature. That means you need to turn to God to see what is going on. So if you have a reason, very solid reason, or if you don't have a solid reason, just get honest with it. Look at what you want from Gita, because it could be that you are reading Gita for ideas. As I told you earlier, there are management courses with Gita, and then there are there's so many. You can learn warfare from Gita, diplomacy and whatnot. There's so many worldly things that Gita can offer that you are there for. But be honest with them. This is what I want from Gita. But if you are instigated, or inspired, I shouldn't say instigated, inspired to read Gita because you find this life painful, or you find that the life could be better and I need to find answers as to how I can live my life to the fullest potential, then the chances that your studies are going to be consistent and going to give better results, that the chances are very high of that. So make sure you do know your reason for reading the scriptures, because if you feel that okay, it's been there, it's at home, don't put any religion here and say I am a Hindu, I probably need to read Gita. There's nothing like that in Sanatana Dharma, that you need to do something and don't need to do something. Totally, it's a soul's journey towards its own home. That's it. If you are ready to drop your toys, like Paramahamsa says, and start yelling Ma, mother will come running. Gita Ma will come running to you, because you're so busy with your toys, happy with your pain and pleasures, and you're happy living the world and its ups and downs. You're riding it and you're having adventures with it. There is no need for Gita to give you anything more than what you want. However, if you just drop your toys and say, I'm done with this, I need real answers, I need real peace, where is it? Then that reason is solid enough for you to take you far into your study. Number 2, the restlessness. This Sri Ramakrishna says that your seeking should make you so restless. If you're not restless to find answers, your study is not going to be consistent, because you came here for something that is superficial. Everybody's reading Gita, I'm reading Gita. Someone said something about Gita I liked, I'm reading Gita. Or there's this one verse I really like, that pulled me into Gita. All that is fine. If you see, this is all dependent on God's grace too. You could just say, hey, somebody said something and I touched Gita and it just drew me in, and I just fell into it and just drowned into it, and it was a ecstatic blissful experience. That could happen to you too, because God works in mysterious ways. But for majority of us, if we are not restless to learn what is there in the right way and apply it to our own lives, which may be different from one another, because even though the main goal of Gita is to free you from birth and death cycle and take you back to God, the way you apply what comes up in Gita can be so personal. As I told you, you could have one question that gets answered. For me, the question that was got answered was, why is my life as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old so different from another? The problems that I'm facing is extremely unique. I don't have other classmates facing the same issues. And then that's when I knew that everything fits perfectly when it comes to karma and rebirth. What I caused the last birth and what samskaras or stored memories I brought with me into this life has continued to give me these results. This is why I'm here. I have nobody else to blame but my own self. That takes so much power out of all the situations and all those things, right? So that restlessness was there, and then that should be there according to Paramahamsa, that when your seeking is really really so strong that it bothers you to stay put, you want to really know, you pick up a Gita and you start reading, you'll be so gripped to it, you will not let it go, you will not ease up your study. So a strong restless seeking is something that is good to have when you begin Gita. Lack of cynicism, there's a no, I put cynicism as no. What is cynicism? Cynicism is a smaller way of looking things. We can say it's karpanya dosha, as it comes in the second chapter, a miserly way of looking things. So cynicism is defined as something like a person thinking that everybody else is selfish, or they have a motive. That's what cynicism is. But I use it here in the term where you say, okay, you read a book and it changes your life. If you have that kind of attitude that this is not going to give you much, you're just there to test the waters, the chances that your study will give you anything is very less, or the chances that it sticks to you or you have a consistent practice is very, very less. If you have a negative attitude towards scriptures and you're bringing in the filters of religion or something like that, something that restricts and divides us, if you think certain way where you want to restrict and divide, you are reading this to become better than others, that's a no. If you want to get into Gita because you just want to test the waters out, you just want to see where it takes you, not really, because when you get into it, you have to have this thing firmly in your mind that this is God himself speaking. It does not matter, as I told you, it does not matter whether you're Rama Bhakta or Krishna Bhakta or Christian or anybody that's reading, because Dr. Abdul Kalam was reading the second chapter every day. It is in his books, and I don't know why nobody speaks about that. So many people out of their religious upbringing have read the Gita, and they've made extreme progress. This is because they didn't have that cynicist outlook of cynicism, where they are narrow minded and they're thinking a certain way. If you read the Gita with the thought that Paramatma himself is speaking, supreme being is speaking to me, this book is, I'm going to open this and find God speaking through this book, only then your study will actually take you somewhere, or your study will be consistent and you won't let go of the study halfway. And then of course open mind, which is also connected with cynicism. You need to have an open mind. Again, your reason should be to know the truth and only truth. There is no other thing that should be there which divides you, closes you from others. You need to be able to see, at least after reading for some time, that even though we are not in the stage of yogi, at least in the course of time, one should at least have constant reminders that Lord alone is the source of all this, Lord alone is the source of all beings, Lord alone is all beings. So if I and another person have different lives, different kind of upbringing, different kind of thing, there is pain, there is pleasure, and one person is dominating the other, all these things are happening because of all the rebirths that we have taken, and we created all these complex situations with which we are in. To simplify, we have to have an open mind to be able to get Lord's message correctly and then start applying it in our mind. So even before I talk about how beginner struggles, what to read and how to go about it, I think it makes sense to have these things in order. And if you have in addition to all this, if you have devotion, that's a great thing to begin with. If you already are devoted to God, definitely it's going to yield better results than someone that has no concept of God. They're only here for the philosophy. It's harder for that person to get much out of it. If you have devotion, you have a stronger starting point, is what I came to say. So I hope you liked these, and this is episode 1 of beginner series. I'll do more of these as and when I go in this channel, and I'll meet you soon in another video. Bye bye.